is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. And today, guys, we're actually going to be doing some actual work on our C8 Corvette. Of course, if you guys are new to the channel, this is my 2020 C8 Corvette. Today we're actually going to be doing performance mod on this thing, because today we're going to be installing a set of high flow catalytic converters. Now, if you're new to the channel, my name is Jorge. I love working on cars like this thing behind me. I do have the Z06 still on order, patiently waiting for that thing to come. But thankfully, in the meantime, we have this C8 behind me that we can still enjoy and do work to. Now, of course, we have to do a cold startup and idle on this thing to show you guys kind of what it sounds like completely stock. Let's go ahead and give it the cold startup. Here it is at idle. Now, as you can see, guys, it sounds pretty darn awesome. This thing is great, but I think the high flow cats are definitely going to give this thing that extra little bit of volume, especially on idle, to really make sure that it grabs your attention when you're driving by. Now, these are from, of course, Extreme Online Store, guys, and I tried looking around YouTube anywhere. I could not find these. I didn't see any videos of people installing this, but Extreme Online Store advertises these things as high flow cats, no tune required. They're by far the cheapest ones you can buy. These things, the pair was 360 bucks plus I believe 20 bucks in shipping. The cool thing about these, guys, is you see these standoffs. Yeah, this is for the factory heat shields. So these catalytic converters can basically reuse your factory heat shields and basically make this thing look like an OEM install. But there is one problem. The problem is, when you look at these things, guys, yeah, that just looks like a straight pipe to me with a little bit of resonating material. That is a problem. Now, in the little holes there, I believe there is some catalytic material, but I don't know that this is going to prevent our check engine lights. Now, to ensure that we don't have any check engine lights, I did go ahead and go to 2M Manufacturing for their mini cats. This is what 2M uses on their catalytic converters to help prevent any check engine lights, and this is basically mini catalytic converter, 200 cell catalytic converters. Now, between the mini cats, these catalytic converters, and I did get OEM gaskets from the dealership for both sides, I spent about 550 bucks, which is still a lot cheaper than going with the 2M high flow cats, which are about 600 bucks total without any heat shielding. Once you add any heat shields or anything like that, they can go up to about $900. So I figured try these out and see if they work. But in any case, guys, let's go ahead and kind of put this to the side and start talking about how the plan is to install them on our C8 Corvette. To install high flow cats or replace the cats or do anything like that, there are two ways that I've seen people do online. The first and probably more smart professional way of doing it is by removing the rear bumper, removing the factory exhaust, and lifting this car up so you can reach a few bolts that are kind of hard to reach on the bottom side of the catalytic converters. And then, of course, you do have to remove this whole inner carpeting to get to the access panel to the airbox, and remove the whole airbox from the system so that you get all the space you need for the cats. So That is going to have to be removed. We have to remove these factory carbon fiber panels and some of the heat shielding around the headers. That'll help us also get to the cat. The other way that people have done it as well is by just removing the airbox and working around this area only without removing the rear exhaust. We're going to try doing all the work as far as we can get just by doing the airbox removal up in the top and engine bay area without removing the rear bumper. So, time to get to work. And for the airbox, there's a video that'll show you exactly all the points for you to disconnect, remove, and unbolt. Okay, we've got the airbox finally out, and as you can see, you got two 10 mils of these that go here in the bottom. I'm probably just going to kind of start those up and leave them there so that we make sure we don't lose all these. That's a good tip. If you can, put these back where they belong and they're not in the way. Highly recommend doing that. So we'll do that. There's two there, and then there's two in the back. And other than that, the airbox is out. Here it is. You guys see we've got one sensor here, got another one here for the MAF. There's a bunch of tree clips here all around the side, and this part here is where the O2 sensor brackets go, and on the front down here at the bottom you see you have this temperature sensor here that's kind of in the way, and I actually ended up breaking some trees here. So anyways, the box is out, and now you can see the two catalytic converters. Now we still have to remove the heat shielding on the headers and the upper and lower to give us some extra room, and moving along pretty well. So okay, update. So as you can see, driver side catalytic converter is out. Now it's probably the easier side because right here you only have, on this flex pipe, you actually only have two bolts, one on each side that's kind of doing a compression here on the bottom side. Now on the top side, I did end up removing the inner and lower upper heat shielding so that I could get access to that last bolt down here. And honestly, on this top side, I actually did have to use the impact. Luckily, I had this here, which is the Milwaukee M12 stubby, little 1/2 inch. If I would have had a 3/4, probably would have been a lot better, but with a 1/2 inch, I put a wobble socket on here and just was able to get it right in here and get that last bottom out. And then all I did to loosen it up without having to remove the exhaust was got this pry bar to kind of pull on the bottom, and you can see how it's very flexible here, how this thing's very flexible and goes up or down, and I was able to get the bottom to loosen up and then slide the whole catalytic converter. One other thing I did do is remove these little heat collar extensions on both sides, so those go right here and right there. It just gives you a little bit less intrusions with the bolts. Now one thing I did do on the other side was I did remove the O2 sensor upstream just to kind of give me some clearance so I can do a straight shot into this upper hole. Not too bad. You got the plug here. Alright, so guys, removing the catalytic converters without taking off the rear exhaust, successful. And honestly, that lower bolt on this side here was not bad at all. So what I ended up using was basically a 13 millimeter with the wobble socket and this wobble kind of head, swivel head. And there's of course plenty of room on the underside here under this piece, so I was able to get in there, and thankfully the bolt was not ultra seized or really hard to loose. I was able to kind of put enough pressure to break it loose and kind of start breaking it by hand. Super simple. And now we've got the factory catalytic converters out. So now we'll go ahead and transfer all this over, and putting it all back together should be a lot easier, hopefully. All right, so guys,
I'm actually a little impressed with this kit from Extreme Online Stores for the price. Now, it comes with all new hardware, which is super easy to put on. The bigger ones with kind of like this boxy end, those go on the header side, and the smaller ones with this smaller little piece here, which is a 5mm 6 hex head here, are the ones that go on the other end, and it comes with all of them. And you basically just, the top side, primer side, you screw these in till it bottoms out on this thicker smooth area here, and just make sure it's really nice and tight. And on this side it actually will go through, so you just really got to make sure you have some of that smooth surface still showing around and be pretty even. Get about a couple threads out on the back side. Now, like I mentioned, the kit lets you use the stock heat shielding, so you can see here, this is actually Extreme Online Store. That is a factory cat, and it looks pretty much factory. Now, the kit uses 2 of the factory points on the upper side, and I did have to use the supplied bolts for the bottom side, as the bottom side needed longer bolts. These are the size of the factory bolts, are pretty short, and when putting these on, I suggest getting the bottom ones first and getting to catch the threads but still loose, not tight enough, so you can go around and be able to adjust and move to get the right lineup on the top. Well, we've got the passenger side in. That was super easy, guys. Honestly, really easy. Way easier than taking it out, and everything tightened up well. We've got brand new gaskets on the exhaust side, brand new gasket on the header side. But it's not all roses and rainbows, because the driver's side, yeah, this driver's side is not a plug and play. So it comes with 2 of these longer bolts, which have 2 washers, a spring, compression spring, a nut, and another washer. But it actually comes with these 2 holes threaded, and for some reason these don't actually thread in there. It started seizing up halfway through. And then the other thing was, with the heat shields on, guys, on the backside, really, I mean, there's no way to either put them in and or bring them in from the opposite end and put the nut on the end. The heat shields are right up against it. So all I did was basically wring them out and make the hole bigger to just slot this through, and basically put them in similar setup to the factory setup with the studs. So these bolts are now just studs, which I'm then going to use to push into the headers, and then put the spring washer and nut to the factory exhaust to give it that same compression setup. That took a little while, but we figured it out. We made it happen. It's been a little bit. I cut my finger trying to put in this driver's side cat, but as you guys can see, it is all back together. We just put the air intake back, we put all the heat shields back, and now you see here we've got the 2 catalytic converters. I did not put the mini cats in. I'm gonna see what Extreme Online Store is talking about when they say no tune required. I'm assuming, pretty sure we're gonna get a check engine light, but you know, I figure I'll give them benefit of the doubt for you guys. Check them out, and if we do get a check engine light, then of course we can install those mini 2 cats and see if that helps. But I mean, we've got the space here on both ends to remove the O2 sensor and basically do that without having to disassemble the whole thing again. And just like that, it's like if nothing ever happened. We got everything back on the car, put everything on. Now, truth be told, that's probably not the smart thing to do when you are putting new parts, because you might want to check to see if there's nothing going wrong and you don't have any other issues, but it is what it is. Everything was installed, put back into its place, and honestly, I really like the fact that it looks like you still have the factory catalytic converters, because you reuse the factory heat shields. That is pretty cool. So now it is the moment of truth, guys. We're about to turn this thing on and see what it sounds like for the first time. This will be a cold startup on the Extreme Online high flow cats. We're gonna do a remote start and see if everything works. Wow. Honestly, that definitely has a lot more volume to it and sounds really good at idle now here. It is definitely much louder. I'll put a before and after here for you guys. Now let's go ahead and we'll leave it idling here, warm it up, and then start giving it a few revs so we can see what it sounds like when we rev it. Wow. Now, I was inside the car when I was doing those revs for you guys, but you can definitely tell that this thing is breathing much better. Now, I do have the car in the track mode for the exhaust. It is a performance exhaust, which basically means that it's almost pretty much 95% straight pipe now that we've got the high flow cats, and the car actually did not run a check engine light. Now, we do have to probably drive the car. It probably takes a few miles for it to trigger those codes, but right now the car, while idling and while revving, did not turn the check engine light on. Now, I'm probably gonna go take it for a drive and do some other stuff, but as you guys see, the sun is setting. This install took about 6 hours, give or take, and honestly, it's not bad at all. If you are considering doing this, you don't need to remove the rear bumper and remove the exhaust. I was able to do it. You do just need to have basically a few swivel angle sockets so that you could get to some of the different spots, maybe one of those ratchets with the flex heads. But other than that, guys, it was a really easy install. The only problem with the Extreme online store, guys, is that they do not provide the proper hardware for the driver's side to the exhaust. Can't wait to go drive it around, see how it sounds, and I'll probably bring you along on that in the next video, guys, and give you guys the update on whether we end up with a check engine light or not. And if we do, of course, like I mentioned, we do have the 2M mini cats, 2M fabrication mini cats. Hopefully we won't need them, so we can keep that OEM almost look. But if we do, we can try out the 2M mini cats and see if that fixes the issue. But anyways, guys, there you have it, before and afters on the install. I can't wait to drive this thing on the road and see just how this sounds. That thing sounds insane just from the inside. I can't wait to go back and see the audio from the video to see how it sounds from the outside. But super excited. Finally did a performance modification to the Corvette, and I think it's great, guys. Comment down below, let me know what you guys thought, and do you guys think that we should try going for maybe a aftermarket muffler in the rear?
But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.